Hello.
Hello, hello.
Still on the road.
Hey, Lisa, back in your car.
Yes, and I thought I would be home by now, but this neck of the woods had some snow-packed roads I had to go really slow on, but I'm back on dry ground. So
Cool.
I'll be home in about an hour.
We're glad you're here.
Thanks.
Same. Well, tell you what, I was sitting here going, who are the people in our class again? And I was like, I know we had more, but I can't remember who they are. I don't know why. And then I remembered, but it took me a minute.
Hey, good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
Irene says hi.
Hi, Irene.
Hi, Riva. Hi, Irene.
Oh,
Hello,
I'm
Lisa.
sleepy all of a sudden. Lisa's waving at you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm driving, so I'm trying
Driving.
to.
Yeah.
Yes, I had planned to be home, but the roads were snow-packed and icy for a bit of my drive, so I had to put me behind.
Oh,
But
wow.
I'm good now, though.
So the weather is cold there, is it?
Yes, and several inches of snow and
Wow.
Yeah. Well, our weather, it goes very, very, very hot. Then it goes very, very cold. It goes up and down. They're playing, all right.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like here all the time. Ups and downs.
Yeah.
Right now, even though Lisa and I are not that far apart. Whoa, somebody's echoing. We don't have any snow. It's still cold, but it's not terrible. It's like 38, which is just above freezing, I guess, a little bit above freezing.
When
Hello.
you say 38, is it heights?
38 degrees Fahrenheit.
Degrees Fahrenheit.
So I don't know what that
Okay,
here. Let me check.
That's about where we're at in Washington, too.
Degrees Fahrenheit.
Fair.
Sunshine. So,
30 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius. It's 3.3 degrees Celsius is what I was saying.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he works with Celsius.
Everyone does but us. I know. That's why I had to figure it
Yeah.
out. I don't even know, like I can't convert. All I know is 0 is freezing and 100 is boiling in Celsius. But for us, 32 is freezing and what, 212 or something? I don't know, is boiling. I should know
Yeah.
that. Anyway.
Yeah. For us, the lowest number is cold. The highest number is hot. So it goes to 40 degrees is actually really, really, really hot. 40 something.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, so I know Dottie is supposed to come on, except for she's also sick. So she'll probably just be listening anyway. She is having a hard time with her voice. So anyway, let's get started, shall we? She can join us when she joins us or sleep if she sleeps through it. It's probably better for her anyway. But okay, Irene says, couldn't use the car this morning. The locks were frozen. We'll have to leave the car unlocked this night to be able to open it. I understand that life. I've been there.
Wow.
Uh,
Hi, Nydia.
Hello.
all right. Well, I want to say, I tell you what, this has just been the day. Did you hear that noise? I've been dropping everything. I even turned down my background noise even more. So maybe you didn't hear it. I did that because I was so annoyed with making loud noises today. But okay, so I want to give a reminder to everyone. Because I don't think I even mentioned it in our class. I only mentioned it in the other class because they're brand new. But I would like to give you a reminder, if possible, I would like if you could turn your homework in like 24 hours in advance. Okay. If you don't get around to it, not the end of the world, but it's really, really difficult for me. First of all, my Sundays, which we're okay, Myrna, I don't know if you know what time it is here, but for me, it's 1 p.m. Okay. I am having classes and meetings since 9 a.m. So I don't have time before our class to, look over your homework or anything like that. It needs to be like the day before. Even if it's done, by the evening, the day before, it's helpful. But the more time you give me, the better it is. So even if you have say your scribe is turning it in to me, let me know. Okay. Just shoot me a message. Even if you think I should know already, just shoot me a message anyway. So I'm not so did this happen? Am I supposed to engage? Are they going to turn it in? And me always waiting and wondering. Okay. That would be helpful. If you don't get it in on time, it's not the end of the world. I can read it after class, but I don't know how to prepare for class if I haven't already read your homework. Does that make sense? Like today, I saw a couple people's homework that made me go, oh, I don't know if they understand the assignment. Or I go, oh, we need to work on some other things that pertain to this. And so that being said, please try to turn in your homework at least 24 hours in advance. Grace on grace with that, but you can't expect me to read through everybody's homework for 2 classes by the time of class if you turn it in a few minutes before. Okay, it really doesn't make sense. So like I said, I'm not mad about it or anything. It's just helpful for our class if you do it. So I do want to talk about our homework a little bit, but first, let's engage together and join everyone in our class, okay? In the heavenlies. Thank you, Lord. All right. Well, I want to tell you guys a couple things that I just saw. First off, just made my heart happy. I saw everyone sit down and hold hands. It was like in complete unity. It was so beautiful. The other thing was, it confirmed some things that Lisa and I saw before. I think it was when Lisa and I were engaged, I'm pretty sure, but before we started this class again. And And so this will be a good time to give a heads up with this. But I saw just now both of the classes, like the 101 that's going on and this 201. It's like we're all part of the same class, but the first part was like dismissed and then we're doing our part. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of like we're together, but going two different ways, if that makes sense. And so I saw that happen. And this pertains to something that we saw beforehand, before we ever started this class. So we saw that so this 201 class plus the 101 class, whoever goes to the 201 class, then these two classes will combine to do a 301 class. So this summer, there will not be a 301 class. It'll start in fall. Okay. And so during the summer, well, there will be a 201 class during the summer. And so then both the 201 classes will have an opportunity to take the 301 class. So that'll be fun and interesting. And just so you know, right now we only have 4 people in the 101 class. So it's not like it's going to be a huge class or anything. Okay. Anyway. But I thought that was kind of cool because I had not seen that before, that it's like we're part of the same class. So,
And people that didn't get to go into 201 this time might have an opportunity to by summer. And
exactly.
then
Yeah. And we did have some of those.
I saw like a picture frame, in my upper right with a boat. And yeah, I have a boat in the hallway, a picture of a boat. And it was towards the end. And I said, okay, Yahweh, who's on the boat? Yeshua and you. So we're on the boat, but we can't get out of the frame. I said, what do I need? He said, open your mind and heart and spirit. So I opened it up and then we flowed down this stream. And because I said, who else is in the class? And then I said, okay, others are live streaming. Anyway, that's all I heard.
That's fun.
Live stream from the stream.
Cool. Well, so let's talk a little bit about this last week. Okay. First off, I'm going to talk a little bit myself. If you did not turn in homework or whatever, you can talk about your experience too. Okay. But I'm going to talk in generalities about the homework I did get from people. Okay. The first thing is when we talked about identity, the first question was about, letting the Lord remind you of your identity, what aspects of him are in you, that sort of thing. There specifically was one person who, and you'll know who you are, you don't have to speak up, but there's one person who had a really hard time with that because of the amount of unworthiness that she felt. She didn't feel like she could even see through the Lord's eyes who she is because she just doesn't feel worthy of, I guess, seeking identity in him or anything like that. I want to tell you guys a story about this with me. Some of you have probably heard it, though I don't think all of you have. So you might be like, yeah, Chris, I've heard this a million times. Just ignore it, okay? Or maybe glean something new off of it. I don't know. I want to tell you about the first time where I sought the Lord for my destiny scroll. Okay, Myrna, look at me because you're the only one with your video. Wait, Lisa has her video on. I'm putting you guys in the middle. I can't talk to blank screens, people. Okay. I know Irene can't turn on her video, so it's okay.
I can turn on my video, but I'm finally sitting down to eat and I'm trying to.
You can eat in front of me.
I don't like seeing people chewing. It bothers me. And so I'd rather not have my chewing look like
Okay, fine.
on the video.
Did the same thing. Which I didn't want to watch.
Okay, well, I don't care if you care, it's fine. At least I know Myrna will look at me, and Lisa, you're driving, so don't look at me too much. Anyway, all right, so at this time, I had not even learned how to engage the heavenly realms on purpose. Okay. I knew it was a thing, but I had never even known how. I'd had lots of random experiences where I was, by accident taken or something, but I'd never intentionally engaged. And I was at this this worship thing with Kent Henry, and he came to Kansas, and I was just enjoying his kind of free flowing prophetic worship. And all of a sudden, I was in the throne room, and I'm like, oh, I'm in the throne room. It's finally my opportunity, because I had heard Ian Clayton say, the first thing you need to do is seek your destiny scroll. So me being the quote, good Christian that I am, I thought, this is what I need to do, whatever he says. And so, by the way, I'm joking about the good Christian thing. You don't have to do what anyone says, but that's what I was doing at the time, idol of man. And so I was like, oh, I'm in the throne room. I can ask about my destiny scroll. So all of a sudden I'm here before the Father. I'm like, Father, do I have a destiny scroll? And then all of a sudden I saw him kind of usher in this angel who had a scroll in his hand, and it's my destiny scroll. I'm so excited. And I said, can I see what's on my destiny scroll? And he opened it up, and all I could see was one word. And first of all, it was like, really, one word? But okay. And when I saw it, it said intercessor. Well, I had, like, my whole life, people had told me I was an intercessor, and I was like in my mind going, yeah, you don't know, I go home and totally forget to pray for people. Like, this is, you think I'm an intercessor, but in my mind, intercessor was, that old lady who spends day and night praying for people. And I'm like, not that person. And so I loved praying for people in person, but I just never would remember to do it otherwise. And so when I saw that, I was confused. And then it's like all of a sudden, Father put in my mind what he really meant. And what he really meant was that I was supposed to lead people into the heavenly realms. Remember, I didn't even know how to lead myself in the heavenly realms right then. And so immediately I was like, no, Lord, I'm not worthy of this. And he stood up in his great authority, which I had never seen before. He'd always been very lovey-dovey to me. He stood up and he said, you don't tell me if you're worthy. I tell you if you're worthy. And immediately I bowed down. It was like I never felt such, I guess, fear of the Lord, but not like a mean thing, just a yes, Lord, like immediate yes, Lord. And it changed something in me. That day, I realized none of how I feel matters about if I'm worthy or not. Nothing that I've done matters if I'm worthy or not. Nothing that anyone else says about me tells me if I'm worthy or not. And what happened was, all of a sudden, every time I would think, no, I'm not good enough for that, I remember, well, I don't decide that. And then somebody else would say, I actually had someone shortly after that have an appointment with me. It wasn't that long, maybe a couple months later. By that time, I'd learned to engage in the heavenlies. But anyway, I had someone who had an appointment with me, and afterwards, she told me, you are not worthy of doing this. You have not gone through the training. You have not done this stuff. You are not worthy of doing this. And normally that would make me go, I'm not worthy. You're right. I only have like 2 months experience, But instead I was like, oh, that's definitely the voice of the enemy, because it was so clear that it didn't affect me at all. I was just like, oh, well, you don't get to tell me if I'm worthy or not. The Lord told me to do it, so I'm doing it. And it was that simple. It was like all of a sudden, my confidence wasn't in me anymore. It was in the Lord. And that changed things for me, because I knew I didn't know crap about it. It's true. I didn't understand how to do anything, but he did. And he's the one who called me to it. Therefore, I have everything I need. Right? And so it changed everything for me. It didn't matter if I was good at something, bad at something, a jerk to my husband, a terrible mom, whatever. Nothing mattered anymore. It was only what the Lord said about me. And it was what he wrote on my destiny scroll. He wrote that because he decided. It wasn't of anything I did or didn't do or whatever. And so anyway, I just wanted to speak that to you in hopes that it resonates, because our identity can't come from how we feel about ourselves. It has to come from the Father. Because our true identity, a lot of times, we don't look like it in the earth until we hear about it. And then we start to step into it. Because remember, he told me I was supposed to lead people into the heavenly realms, and I didn't even know how to do it myself. The very first time that I led someone in, it was because, it was because I told that story to someone close to me, and he believed it about me. And then he wanted to introduce me to the woman who grew him up in the spirit, his spirit mom. And so he introduced me over Zoom and then said, Christine, can you lead us into the heavenly realms? And in my mind, I thought, oh shit. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be too blunt. Just all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like freaking out. Oh crap. He just asked me to do this and I don't know what I'm doing. And instead of saying any of that, I then was like, sure. And so I didn't know what to do. I just was like, Yeshua, can you please lead us wherever? And he did. And that's all it took. It was simply like that simple. And it was the first time that I led anyone into the heavenly realms. And it was really just me knowing nothing, relying on Yeshua, which is perfect. I didn't realize at the time it was just desperate, but it's perfect. That's what you have to do all the time. And so I stepped into my destiny, not knowing how to step into my destiny. I just said, I don't get how I'm supposed to do this, but you got to do it for me. And then it happened. And now look, I mean, I've led, I don't know how many thousands, at least, of people into the heavenly realms. And never did I think I was worthy of that. The Lord knows. He made me for this. And now I'm like, yeah, he made me for this. This is what I'm supposed to do for sure. But I didn't see it before. So anyway, I didn't mean to spend all this time on identity. I just hope that everyone understands that really this is only about yielding. It's not about how good you are. It's not about, if you're worthy of something. Only Father's the one who can tell you that. Okay, I have to read the comments here. Okay, Dottie said, amen. We don't listen to ourselves. We need to speak to ourselves what God says about it. If we have negatives over us, that's the voice of the enemy who brings shame, etc. Yes. River says, our position and identity is from and in him. Thank you, Lord. Yay, the Lord knows. Dottie says, we needed to hear it. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Well, here's the thing. This whole time, there's going to be a voice. It can be a person's voice. It could be the enemy's voice. It could even be your own voice who says, you don't know what you're talking about. Quit trying to do this. No, don't press in. There's nothing that you need to do that is concerning this. And every single thing that is part of your identity will get attacked. Because the enemy is trying to keep you out of your destiny. Every time you know your destiny, you know what you're supposed to do, even just a piece of it, and you refuse to do it, you're delaying God's will, and you are not doing what you're supposed to do, which is what this class is about, is bringing heaven to earth, right? So let me tell you, it doesn't really get easier. Okay. It doesn't get easier than this. The more you step into what you're supposed to do, the more voices tell you, nope, don't do that. You're not supposed to do that. Oh, this isn't working out. You must not do it. All of the things. Okay. I know some of you have had struggles with getting on this class in different ways. Okay. Everyone has had very different struggles concerning this. Yet you each know you're supposed to do it, right? I guarantee you I have had more struggles than you guys on getting on this class. You may not even understand it, but it is true. The day before this class started, I am like in tears. I'm freaking out. I have everything going wrong that could go wrong with people enrolling the wrong way, or not the enrolling, not going through, or, you know, all of these different things with just so many things, plus all these witchcraft spiritual attacks at the same time. You know how bad I want to go, you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to do it. It's easier to just brush my hands of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Sorry, Christine.
it's okay. You know, the Lord said that this is important. The more opposition you have, likely the more important it is. So when you have opposition, here is what a kingdom person does. A king and a priest, they do it anyway. You don't feel good, you do it anyway. You're struggling with making it happen, you figure out a way. And you say, Lord, I can't do it myself. You're going to have to pull this through. And you give it to him, but you do whatever he says to do to make it happen. You're like, I don't know. I might be on the road. Like Lisa, would she have every excuse to like not be here? 100%. Like none of us would blame her if she wasn't here. Right? She's driving down the road. She's trying to pay attention like to a million things. But she is here anyway because the Lord said to be. So she's here. Does that mean I expect you to have perfect attendance? No, that's not what I mean. I just mean whatever it is that you're called to, there's going to be opposition with it. And you're going to have all sorts of things telling you, you know, you're just not cut out for this. You didn't do enough work, whatever. You know, for me, I'm like, man, I had all this trouble with getting the calendar up on Acuity. I had all this trouble with getting the enrollments to work. Did I do enough videos? Did I do enough posting? You know, all these stupid things. It doesn't matter. If the Lord says to do it, freaking do it. Right? Anyway, I didn't mean to cry about everything. Seems like my whole life in this class. I just want you guys to know that as you progress in ministry, there are going to be forces that try to get you to stop. And they could get you to stop for a moment, or they could get you to stop indefinitely. But you have a destiny to fulfill, and it's very important that it happens. We
It's
each have a
cathartic for
very
you to
different
cry.
part. What
It
did
might
you
be-
say?
It's cathartic for you to cry, And it helps us understand for when we go through it, we'll have a visual memory, not just someone said, oh, it was hard for me to go. Well, we don't know. You hear that people standing on stages all the time. You don't know. You want to be up here. You don't know what I had to go through to be up here.
Right.
It's not just all roses.
Yeah, it's not.
So thank you for sharing and being vulnerable with us. Who else can you be vulnerable with if not us, who love you no matter what, through and through, and really are here to support and encourage you because you're feeding into us. No, we know now what to pray over as well. When I went to meet with Eden Worship with Dwight the other day,
Yeah.
Mark was helping me plant tulips out front, and he said, oh my goodness, maybe not in those words. He says, I think I just cut the electric. I think I just cut go see if we have internet. I'm like, I'm having my first meeting today. Went in, I'm trying to turn on, I have to wash my hands from the dirt. And he's like, well, I'm like, I just got dirt out of my fingernails. I haven't even been able to touch anything yet. Thank God it wasn't. It was just the water hose or whatever it was. And I was able to get up. But now my screen keeps shaking every once in a while. And it was when I was with Dwight, and it was this morning. So the enemy has been trying to use the internet.
Well, you know what? I have had this happen to where nothing is working. I can't get the internet to work right. I can't get my computer work right. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be on my phone. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I have to do it because I know the enemy's the one trying to stop it. And really, this is like, I am not trying to speak any kind of curses, but this is very common that this would happen. Any sort of thing that will try to get you off will happen if it's important. And so, first of all, if you're not going through that, praise the Lord. That's awesome. I'm happy for you. My life is not as easy as that. But this is wow. Oh my goodness. Nidia said, this week I keep doing goofy things. I even cut myself in the shower. So weird. I'm sorry. Well, one of the things, okay. I'm just talking about all sorts of things that don't really have to do with what we're talking about today, but apparently we're going to talk about some of it anyway. I think it's really important to set up spiritual boundaries. We talked last semester about this. Do you remember? Spiritual boundaries, like, hey, the enemy's not able to come here. Put up a lot of times this is kind of the main thing that the Lord leads me to do a lot, is put up this like dome of Yeshua's blood over me or over my family or over my house or whatever. This is a big deal, is setting up protection. Ask angels to stand guard or whatever you're led to do. Ask the Lord what you're led to do. But that's a big deal. And if you see a pattern like Nidia did, okay. Wow. She said, in the elbow, who does that? I was not shaving nor had the razor. See? Okay. If you see stuff like that and you're like suspicious, it's probably the enemy. And so what you really need to do is just make sure that your spiritual boundaries are in place, that your protection is in place. And sometimes we just forget about these things and don't even think about it until all of a sudden, bam, attack. So I want to be clear, because when I talk about the enemy, I hope you know that my hope is that everyone, person, spirit, being, whatever, whoever it is, that everyone come to know the Lord and be on our side and not be an enemy. Okay. So I just want to be clear about that, because a lot of people are like, but do we really have an enemy? I'm like, well, right now they think they're our enemy anyway. And so they truly are attacking. Does that mean that we don't love them? If it's some witch who's attacking me, yes, I still want her to know the Lord. I want her to come and join our team. But at the moment, she's not really on our team. That makes sense? Okay.
Yes, it does.
I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we hate them. Right. Mm. Okay. Excuse me. Let's shift gears a bit. Okay. We talked about blessing last week. Very good. The one thing we need to remember about blessing, we need to focus on the spiritual blessing. Not just giving someone a gift in the physical or something like that. Okay. So when you're thinking about the blessing that you pass on to others, this is a blessing that you not just speaking nice things over them, though that is a nice blessing. The better blessing is doing that in the spirit. And so it's speaking their destiny into place. It is speaking their identity into them, over them, so that they become who they're supposed to be. It's important that we do that over spouses, that we do that over our children, that we do that over anyone who's in our care, which would be ministerially, business-wise, whatever. Anybody who's in our care, that we try our darndest to not just see who we see in the physical, but we see them through the Father's eyes and we speak that over them. Okay. And so that is something that maybe I did not speak clearly enough last time. But I do think it's important that we look at blessing people from the heavenly realms more than just in the earth. Okay. And you can do that over yourself too. Because if you are struggling, which we all have these times when we think we're terrible, nothing people, we're depressed about life, nobody loves us, blah, 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 right? This is like common. If this happens to you, take a moment, rest in the Father. Just place yourself in his heart and ask him to speak over you. He'll speak over you whatever he thinks he wants to speak over you. But no matter what it is, it's going to be truth. And so he could say, hey, quit throwing yourself a pity party. You're fine. Okay. He said this to me before. He might say, you think you're ugly and you're the most beautiful. He might say to you, you are carrying a much bigger load than you should be carrying right now. He might speak to you and just remind you of all of the people who love you so much when you think nobody cares about you. You know, it will be different every time, but when you do that, you will receive truth. And sometimes he tells me to grow up a little bit. He's done this to me before. One time I got super desperate. I think I may have told you last semester, I don't know, but I was having people astral projecting into my room and I was getting so overwhelmed by it. Like I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I don't know, desperate for change, but not knowing how to get anything stopped. And I finally went to the Father and I said, Father, please, will you please just take care of this? There's trespassing. It's not right. And he said to me, no, I'm not going to do it. You need to do it. And I was like, but I don't know what I'm doing. And then he just started reminding me of things that he's taught me before. And I did. I stepped right into it and I was just fine and everything quit and it was good. But sometimes he has to tell you, hey, you're fine. Just here's what you need to do, you know, and it's okay. Sometimes he'll give you a harsh word that's not, he's never mean, but you know, I didn't really want him to tell me do it yourself. I really just wanted him to fix it for me, you know? But sometimes we need that, honey, you're big. This is what I say to my kids all the time. Mom, will you make me a zeal? I'll be like, dude, you're big. Go make it yourself. Of course, I like to do things for them, but sometimes I'm like, why you ask me to make a zeal? It's like kindergarten work, you know, you could do this. And so there are times when he does that to us, and it's a good thing for us. Because if he doesn't tell us to grow up, then we're going to still be like, Daddy, feed me. And so anyway. Oh, look at what Nidia said. He may surprise you, take you swimming in his vast ocean of love. Awesome. Okay, switching gears yet again. Okay, today we're going to be talking about accessing different dimensions. Okay, so dimensions and realms and timelines and all the things. Now, you may be going, wait a second. We're just dealing with our inner healing. Why are we talking about all traveling different dimensions? But this is something where you need to learn who you are in different realms, in different dimensions. Have the Lord take you to see different things and how to function in different places. Because part of ministering in the earth is learning how to function in heaven, right? And even in the different realms of the earth or dimensions of the earth. So for me, this has been a very, I feel like it's still a long journey. I'm learning more all the time still. I do not have it all together. So I will give you my this much knowledge. So hopefully you'll be able to step onto that and then get this much knowledge. But the whole point is we have to have a better understanding of who we are in different realms in order to know how to function in different realms and how to minister in different realms. It's likely that when you first start engaging, that the Lord will just say, let's go to the garden of your heart. And you stay there for a long time and you interact with Yeshua there a lot. And he starts working on the things in your heart, right? And you start seeing more of who you are there. And then all of a sudden he might go, come here with me. Let's go to this new place. And you go to this new place and all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I'm not supposed to be here. I don't have the authority for this. And he takes you anyway and shows you that you actually hold a greater authority than you ever imagined in this other realm that you've just never engaged before. This is what happened to me. This has happened to me a lot, many times. I often, about every time this happens, I never think, oh yeah, I belong here. Every time I'm like, wait a second. This is too much. This is what I think all the time. There was a time I had not been engaging heaven on purpose for very long. I mean, less than a year. And I was used to going to my mountain, sitting on my throne. That's something that I was used to doing. I was used to going to the mobile courts. I was used to going to the garden of my heart, but not even that much, just a little bit. And then all of a sudden, one day, the Father took me to this really high court. I could tell it was one of the highest courts, but I didn't know anything about all the different courts at this point. Okay. But all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, and I remember he took my hand and I kind of like started bowing down, like I'm not worthy of being there, or just kind of a respectful bowing down, you know? And we got to this court and it had a bench of 3 on this court. And all of a sudden, the Father he said, stand up and take your place. And I was like, so I stood up and he pointed to where I was supposed to go sit. And I was supposed to sit on this bench in this high court. And all of a sudden, I was a judge. And this was the court of judges. I didn't know this at the time, but this was the court of judges who helps all of the lower courts with everything, like all of the verdicts and all sorts of things like this. And we release scrolls to people and blueprints to people. We release all that. Well, I was like, I'm supposed to be here. I've never even heard of this place. And I'm supposed to be sitting in this. And it was like, what? And he started bringing cases to the court and this court that I was in. And I thought to myself, I'll never be able to do another thing in the earth. All of my attention's going to be doing everything in this court. And I didn't understand at the time that we could function in many realms at the same time. So I could be functioning there at the same time as I'm functioning here, at the same time as I'm functioning on my mountain. I didn't know all that. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. You know, this was me like having no idea about how to function in these different realms. But the Lord showed me little by little, here's what you're doing. Here's what you're doing. Hey, this is who you are here. This is who you are here. And as soon as I thought that was it, there's something new, you know, always something new. And I only thought there were realms, did not understand anything about dimensions. I still don't have a great understanding, by the way. But in every realm, there are different dimensions. Well, this first time I discovered this was I was up in, you know, the realm where the Father's house is. Probably most of you have been to the Father's house. By the way, you know who introduced me to the Father's house, if I told you this before? This was when I was engaging with my kids. And Soren, he was 8. And we were engaging as a family, and he said, I keep seeing this like giant, it looks like the White House, but it's different colors. So like, you know, the presidential White House in the United States. And I said, well, can you go in it? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, well, next time we engage together, see if you can go in it if you're shown that. So we engaged another time, and he's like, I see that big mansion again. And I said, oh, well, see if you can go inside. And he said, nope, I can't go in. Oh, I'm here. And all of a sudden he's inside, and he goes, oh, this is Father's house. And I'm like, that's cool. And he said, now all of you guys are supposed to come in too. So the girls and I all joined him, and we were all inside the Father's house. And this is how the Lord introduced me to his house that now like half the world goes into all the time when they're engaging heaven, because this is a real thing that is, anyway, it's so cool. But we can be introduced to these different places and realms and dimensions by even small children. Okay. So don't dismiss anything anyone says. I mean, if you don't get it, ask the Lord, is this really from you? Because of course I do that when my kids say stuff. Anyway, but I think it's really cool. We can be introduced to these places. We can go and we can experience different things. So I was ministering to this lady, and we were engaging the Father's house. And then all of a sudden there was this door, but it was like the door wasn't to a building. It was kind of in the middle of, I don't know, like this field. And so we went through the door, and all of a sudden we're in a totally different place. And the Lord told me, this is a different dimension. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And he just let us in, and everything functioned a little differently. It looked different. It worked differently. but it was part of that same realm. Well, that was kind of my first introduction to that. And now I see that there are different dimensions, even in the spirit realm of the earth, that most of us are not tapping into, because all we know of is these 3 dimensions that we've been experiencing, but there are more. And so I recommend asking. You can do it here, you can do it in the heavenlies, whatever realm you're in or you're focused on or whatever. Ask, is there a different dimension that I'm supposed to be accessing here? And if so, can you show me how to function? Because you function differently in each one. It's not always as you're used to functioning in the earth, which you guys have figured that out to a point in the different realms, right? I mean, some of you fly around. Well, I don't fly, but you probably don't fly around in the earth unless you're on an airplane or something. And so you can function differently in different places, but you need to ask, like, can you show me, teach me how, teach me what I'm supposed to do differently. Sometimes, oh man, this is so cool. The Lord literally just showed me just now, as I was speaking, he was showing me how even money, currency works differently in a different dimension in the earth. Wow, that's weird. Ooh, man, this is something that has, wow. Okay, I'm going to get pretty weird. You know about the Illuminati, right? It's a real thing.
Yep.
They have tapped into that dimension, or that, wow.
I've
There's
heard of
more
them,
for
but I
us.
don't know what they really are.
What did you say?
I've heard of them, but I don't know what they really are.
There are these 13 bloodlines that are kind of ruling most of the world, especially financially, but also spiritually a lot. Freemasons kind of have something to do with it, but are not the fullness. If you know CERN, that's part of that whole thing. I don't know. I should just talk to you privately about it, because there's a lot more to it. The whole point is, there are those who are operating on the other side who have tapped into that dimension, apparently. So we need to do the same, but with the Lord, because obviously we'll do a lot better things with Yeshua than they're doing on the other side. So that's exciting.
It is very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I first met the being Silver, he took me into the dimension where he lives. And it's different. It's very different. Everything is made of metals, but well, imagine if you have a tree made of metal, it functions differently, right? So everything in that dimension is very different, functions very differently, but is made for different purposes. And what's cool is, because he comes from that dimension, he can function very differently than we do. So there are times when he can kind of liquefy himself and make himself into something. There are times when he can multiply himself and make an army of himself, if that makes sense. It's really cool. Once you start experiencing these things, you can interact with beings differently, but you can also minister differently in the heavenlies. So if you find out that in some dimension or some realm, you function as a big, I don't know, I keep seeing this thing, it looks like a dragon, but I don't want to say dragon. A lot of dragons are evil. Okay. So, but if you function as this big flying being, I'll just say that. And you start learning how to be that being. You already are that being, but you start feeling comfortable with wings. You start feeling comfortable with how you function like that. All of a sudden, the Lord is going to have you rise up in times to function like this. Actually, this reminds me, there is a lady in my 101 class. I've never met her before until this class. But she asked me if I would engage over her because her heart's really hurting, you know. And so I said, sure. And when I did, the Lord, do you remember me saying that sometimes I function as a gorilla? Yes. Okay. Well, here comes Chris the gorilla. Okay, Chris, I don't know what you call me. And all of a sudden I am protecting her. And this is what I'm doing. I'm protecting her in the spirit because something has hurt her. And I am rising up, and my countenance changes even in the earth when I do this. I like get this, heck no, you get away from my little baby. That's how I feel. Okay. And I am stronger in the Lord when I engage that part of me. I'm stronger in authority, in protection, in all of that, because that's part of who I am. But if I'm never focusing there and allowing him to bring that part out in me, then I stay meek and I stay like, well, I don't know what's wrong. I hope she gets better. You know what I mean? Instead of actually standing up and being who I'm supposed to be in her life. And so it's important that we engage these different parts of ourselves. And it's important that we continue to ask, can you show me more of who I am? Or can you show me another realm? Can you show me another dimension? Without asking these questions, you likely won't experience it. I'll tell you the truth. First time I experienced myself as a gorilla, I was in tough shape. I don't know, Lisa, do you even remember this? I remember I was sitting in my Grammy Joe was in some sort of rehab, and I was getting beat up physically. I remember, I don't remember how exactly, but I couldn't see anything in the spirit, like nothing. And I was getting attacked majorly. And I remember Kim and Lisa and I were engaging, and they started seeing some stuff. And all of a sudden I got empowered, and I saw myself as this gorilla climbing up the tree of life, but not just like, but like crazy running up, like a gorilla would do that. And then eating all these things like as much as I could. Do you remember this, Lisa?
Yes. Were we in South Africa?
No, I wasn't. I know I was here.
Okay. Then I was here too. But I do know.
Yes. So anyway, it's weird. I wasn't expecting that. I didn't ask the Lord, please show me another part of me. I was just desperate for anything in the spirit at that point. And the Lord showed that to me. And then all of a sudden, that's part of who I am. So I'm sure I always was that, but I just had never engaged that before. And so you can be open to any time you engage, seeing something different and being okay with that. But it's even better when we ask, hey, can you show me something different that I haven't seen before? What are these different realms she's talking about? Because there are different realms. There are many different realms. I couldn't even tell you how many. I thought, someone the other day was like, oh yeah, there are 3 heavens. And I'm like, well, actually, there are a lot more realms of heaven than 3. And, at first I thought, oh, there are only like 5. No. Okay. There are way more than that. And there are dimensions inside of the realms. And so it's like unending how much we could experience in this way. But there are then also different timelines. And so these different timelines sometimes are attached to different dimensions. So there is this ideal timeline that the Lord has created. It exists in the heavenly realms. It's what our destiny scrolls attached to. But every time someone makes a decision that goes away from that, a little branch of the timeline shoots off. And so it's like an alternate reality, kind of. I know what I'm living while I'm talking to you right now is not the ideal timeline. There are a lot of things the Lord has done to help me bring, not just in my life, but in other people's lives, to bring that timeline back. I mean, bring that branch back into the original timeline. And so sometimes he'll take you back in time before you ever were born and help someone else make a different decision. Sometimes he may take you and have you course correct what you're doing now to get back on the original timeline. There are so many different things that we can do when it comes to that, but all of us are supposed to have some part in redeeming the times. This is who we're made to be, as sons, as kings. Perhaps as priests too, I don't know, but especially as kings, I know that that's part of it. And so this is another thing. If you can just say, hey, is there something that you want to work on today to redeem the time, whether it's in my life or somebody else's? If it's in someone else's, you'll probably just be led to them. Like I've been led to engage other people that I've never met in a different time and have them decide not to kill somebody. Like that's what happened. And it's fine. I don't have to know anybody. Whatever the Lord leads, I'm happy to be a part of. But we just need to be open to that and know that this isn't the only reality that we've been taught. We've been taught for a long time. This is just time. It's 5 o'clock, whatever. This is the date. So this is what life is. Life sucks. So you just have to get through it to get to heaven. That's not how it works. And so the truth is it's already there. We can engage it at any time. We can engage different parts of the timeline. The Lord can say, hey, you need to manipulate the timeline, and not in a bad way, manipulate, but like move it, stretch it, change it, whatever. Lisa, you have something to add? I feel like you do.
I don't think so.
Okay. Maybe just because you came back on camera. All right. Well, anyway, there's a lot that has to do with all of this, and it might seem a bit crazy and overwhelming. I would like to know first, do you have any questions about what I've already been talking about?
Not that I have any questions, but it is so exciting, to learn more, because everything what you actually said, it's already inside of us. It's been set already before we put in, on the earth. And the Lord had actually reminded me of to engage more in the vibration. Have that, do the humming sound. I've been doing it with my kids, and they say, "What's wrong with you, Mom?" But it feels so good, like, just going into it and then humming and get into that, vibration, into this, hopping into the Lord, and how we function as, frequency, as how our body is, it's amazing. It's mind blowing. So I just would like to add these things.
That's awesome. Well, as you started talking, I was thinking about, he's already placed inside of us, even inside of our brains itself. I mean, just our brain is full of different dimensions, and all of that is already there. It's just like it has to be lit up for the first time. And then once it's lit up, then a neural pathway will be able to be formed, and we just have to go over it, And so there's a lot that just needs to be kind of awakened inside of us, because we have everything capable of functioning like that kainos creation, that new man, right? That resurrected man. We have all of that inside of us, but we have suppressed so much of it that we're still functioning like an old man. And so we have to allow ourselves to be opened up. We have to try to be awakened, because part of us is awake already. That's why we're even having this conversation. But there's so much that can be awakened, and then we'll be able to do that in other people. So just as you just awakened that in me, as we communicate, we're able to awaken new parts of ourselves and be able to do that with each person. And so as
Yeah.
someone speaks, all of a sudden something else like sparks, and we're able to have that newness come again. It's pretty exciting.
Amen. There's actually something the Lord showed me. It's so helpful for us. If we write it down, we go over it, hear it the first time, then hear it the second time, the third time, it actually awakes more and more. But the most important thing, make sure that you write it down, because when you write it, it's like you're writing an agreement with the Lord, like you're writing, and then it gives you more memory. It gives you more, it awakens more things. That's what the Lord said to me. And that's why I've been writing things down, and I will rewriting them as you're talking, it is very important, because it wakes us up. The more we hear it, the more it opens doors and keeps opening doors, and that helps a lot. So
Yay. Yes, go
I
ahead.
agree with Myrna. That's why commercials are repetitive, because the more you hear it, the more you believe it. I heard some pastors say, whenever you hear something new, like praying in tongues or baptism of the Holy Spirit, I heard about speaking in tongues before I ever heard it called baptism of the Holy Spirit. It's like, that's weird, no way. And then you hear it again, and your heart softens and new pathways. And I used to tell my students that if you can look at me and you can hear what I'm saying, but if you actually write down notes, then it stays in longer term memory, the more senses that you actually use. Now you can tune your mom out, you can just totally disconnect and write as if it's Greek and still don't get it. But it does, if you actually then look at it, it goes into longer term memory. But when you were talking about this, I've always loved quantum leap type shows, and the ones that are on now, that just to go back and change the timeline, whatever the one is about history. Well, you can't, they say the rule is you can't change the whatever, but you are preventing someone from being killed. So that does change the timeline. And you hear the butterfly effect. Oh, if you change that, there's going to be a butterfly effect. Well, let it be good. Let it be a good butterfly effect. So we do have that access, right?
If the Lord leads us, then obviously we want whatever butterfly effect happens, right? I mean, if something we can do redeems something, then it will redeem a lot. And so one little thing we might change, we think, well, how's that going to affect the millions of little branches off of the timeline? Well, one change right here can change so many different parts. And so we really can make a big difference. And this has to do with the redemption of all things, that actually can happen if we play our part in the redemption. We're called to do it. The scripture even says for us to redeem the times. It doesn't say to ask him to redeem the times, which is kind of mind blowing at first. It's like, wait, what? How do we do that? But all we do is partner with him and do as he leads us to do. And it'll be great. Right? Okay. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Well, how about let's engage together and let's just spend some time asking the Lord to show us either who we are in a certain, realm or dimension, or, hey, show us a new realm or dimension, or could you take us to redeem the time? Do whatever you're really feeling led to do. Okay. But let's engage now. Once you're finished, turn back on your video, except if you can't do your video, and then put it in the chat box that you're done. All right. If you could focus back in, that would be good. Okay. I first want to share something I experienced because it was with somebody else in this group. So, Irene, I hope you can hear me. If you can you say yes in the chat box or something? Yay. Okay. So, Irene, I was engaging with you in a different realm. I had never seen anything like this before. The whole realm was different colors of blue. And this I could see was a realm where you go into, I don't know if you even know it or not. I kind of assume not, but I don't know. Maybe you do. You go into this realm when you're overwhelmed. And it's like to get away, especially from all of the kids that you govern. So I'm not just talking about your children on earth, but you know how you take care of all these other kids and babies in the heavenly realms? Well, I don't know what realm it is you do that in actually, but you go into this, I think it was a dimension is what it feels like. But you go into this dimension and then you turn into a fish. And this fish, it's like I saw you first with so much joy in like what I normally, like your normal state that I see you in the earth. You looked like that at first and you had so much joy and peace. And then all of a sudden you turned into this fish and you dove into this great big stream. I would say it's kind of in between a stream and a river, but anyway, you dove in there and you started picking up these things from the bottom of the riverbed, but you did it with arms and hands. So it's kind of like you're a fish, but then you also had these arms and hands. And so you would pick these things up with that. And what it was actually, you were picking up things and it was almost like food or sustenance for the kids that you were taking care of. And it was some way of you being able to serve them without being stressed by them. And so anyway, it was really interesting. I just saw you in there and you were swimming so freely and wonderfully. And it wasn't a burden for you to go and pick these things up for them or anything. And anyway, that's what I saw. And it was definitely a new experience. Look at Nadia's little fish you put up. Cute. Okay, don't let that shark get that fish. All right. So anyone else want to share? You guys, someone must share. Okay. It cannot just be me.
Well, I immediately, maybe because you talked about redeeming, I don't remember if it was the killing, but someone in my bloodline, my sister-in-law does ancestry.com and brought up this article in the newspaper and had seen where either someone had killed his brother-in-law or his cousin. I can't remember. I think it's brother-in-law with something to do with wife. It was a gunshot out after a saloon. They were all out in the yard, out in the street. And I just pictured like these saloons in this dark street, like you would see in a country movie. And so I went and I appeared, and the guy that shot him kind of got shocked because he saw me kind of jump in front of them. But I'm like, but it's not shooting me because I would be real there. I don't know. And so he stumbled back and he shot the ground, and it went through I had a long green dress on, like a, whatever pioneer type dress. And it went through the skirt of the dress. And so it changed and redeemed the timeline of everything else. And they, oh my gosh, goodness. And they forgave each other, and he couldn't believe, but because of drinking of what he had done. And then I went back to, and I don't know if it's just my imagination or my will, but that's what happened. And then I went back to when I first got drunk, when my parents took me to the place across the lake, and they had this vat in in a trash can that I didn't drink more than one. And that mom said, no, I couldn't go with these two boys drinking at the bar. And even though I was upset, I was like, I didn't know why, but it was protecting me. And so it just kind of changed that timeline from my memory. And so I didn't end up in the backseat of the car in this position, and all the things, the worries and everything that happened after that. It kept me pure.
Wow, that's cool. Very cool. Awesome. All right, who else wants to share?
Okay, so I'll share. So it started off at the, in our classroom. My table, my team, our table changed from being this sort of a rectangular table to being a circular table with my team at it this time. And at different times when I've engaged, I've been a couple of different animal types, specifically a lion and an eagle. And there seemed to be an agreement with my table that I was supposed to be a lion. So I was this lion, and I was going across the earth and roaring and breathing. And as I did that, it changed the frequency of like stronghold kinds of things. Like it would break apart. It would just break apart energetic misalignments. And then I ended up being, there was a certain point when I kind of withdrew and I came up to the eagle and was like overlooking, and then I sank back down into the lion, and I was in Eastern Europe and kind of planted there, and just a lot of like roaring, and even like the breath of the lion would impact the historical and energetic evils. And like the claws of the lion were like sinking into the earth and kind of shooting out a electrical sort of frequency that was also impacting the area. And that's, I was there kind of a lot, almost until the very end, and just breathing and roaring across this space into different historical and present I don't know, energies and actions and systems. And then when you called us back, kind of pulled up into the eagle again and saw that there was like joy that had been created from the movement of, there was a lightness that had come in from the movement of the roaring and the breath of the lion.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ever. Well, would someone else like to share?
Yes, I'd like to share. Well, I don't have anything much to say, but when I started engaging, right away I got like, I can't say sucked in, but like shot out into space, and I was really sure. And it's a place where I'm used to going with him. I don't know at what moment, but I'm used to going with him out there. And then we reached out there, and I've seen other galaxies, and I see the Earth below. And as I was looking, he I started looking, and then he brought me back to. We didn't stay there for long. We stayed there for like a few seconds, and he brought me back to the garden, and he told me, "You're tired. Let's just stay here." And we went back to the garden, and I was actually feeling tired in all sorts of senses, if you know what I'm saying. And so, told me, "You're tired. Let's just stay here." And the whole time I just stayed on his laps, and with my head just leaning on his laps, and him like caressing my head, and we just had this heart-to-heart conversation, just resting. And then after that, I went to Yahweh's throne room, and then I ended up cuddling in his arms and just resting there. Yeah.
That's fun. That's cool.
The only thing I was seeing, well, it's not only, but what I was seeing was, and I don't know if it was like a timeline in general or somebody else's timeline, or I'm not sure, but Yeshua was showing me how trauma and free will causes kinks in the timeline. And in those kinks, the flow from heaven just gets either stopped or really slowed down. And so a long time ago, I don't remember if it was what ministry it was, where anyway, the Lord showed, they were asking me to ask Yeshua, where were you during all this trauma, in these certain points? And he was like driving up and down the timeline and smoothing out the kinks so that the enemy didn't hide under those kinks to cause more damage. And but I didn't know that's what he was doing until just now. I didn't know he was stopping at those kinks to smooth those out. So I don't know if it's just something to be aware of when we're ministering, to go to the timeline and smooth out those kinks, because I could also see the enemy, demonic beings, if that kink were to make a V, they were just kind of hiding out there and keeping it kinked. And we can get rid of those easily, which I didn't know about. So that was
cool.
it.
That's very helpful. Awesome. Anyone else want to share?
I actually was praying because my lower back and my thigh hurts really, really bad. But actually I was praying and was given the thought of praying when I was little, probably 4 or 5 years old. When I was walking on the side of the sidewalk, and one foot was on the sidewalk, one foot was on the street, and then I was walking, and I had forgotten about that, and I just felt a pop and a pain in my lower back. And I remember telling my mom and being in pain for a while, but nothing was done of it. And so now that Lisa was saying something about the timeline and stuff, that kind of makes sense, speaks to me, because I was just asking the Lord to redeem that time for me not to have had that happen, or somehow, just prevent that popping, like have an angel carry me so that I did not have that false step. And before that as well, I was like just redeeming the timeline from the time of conception, when I was conceived, and all the way through I was born. And then I was taken to that one piece when I was like 4 years old that kind of tied in with my back. So that's pretty much it. So yeah.
Awesome. So how does your back feel now?
Well, I'm laying down, and mean, I'm not feeling any pain right now, but my thigh still hurts a lot. Yeah, I mean, it before, I don't know. I guess I can try to get up and see, but I also feel really tired. So it's just been bothering me a lot. Like when it acts up, it like puts me out on to my bed. And so since Thursday, my thigh had been bothering me Thursday, then Friday, my back started to hurt. And then like yesterday, my back was really bad. And then today I woke up with back pain as well. And it hadn't hurt for a long time, but so yeah, if anybody let to continue to pray for my complete healing, that'd be awesome.
I was just thinking, you guys want to press in right now and see if you see anything over her thigh and back, or back, I should say. Okay. Well, do you guys see anything?
I felt there was something that started a long time ago because I was thinking maybe if you stretch it, but then there was a rigidity that maybe a long time ago, you're like, no, I can do it. You know how little kids, if you want to offer to help, no, I'll do it. I'll do it. But there was something that it's not just I'll do it like an independent spirit, but that you want to help others. And there's sometimes a rigidity. No, if I don't do it, it's not to be done right. And it sounds familiar to me because I'd rather clean up the glass that's broken on the floor than let anybody else do it, because nobody else will do it right. They might leave a little piece. And just see if there's any kind of pressure you've been putting on yourself to help this person, that person, that person, that person, because it might not be in your backpack for God to have you do all of this. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And we're preaching to the choir. So just see if that might resonate, because the pressure is just putting on your lower back, and he's trying to show you you're not made for all of this burden. Give it to him and seek for each time. And even if you're supposed to help this person this time, maybe next time someone else, and then still you might help him another time, because I know you have such a caring heart.
Amen. Thank you.
Did anyone else get anything?
Yeah, I did.
Can you come closer or something, River? We
Sure.
can't hear you.
Better?
No.
Better? So I felt like there was this physical kink in that part of your body, like in your spine or something. And so I was just, working with it, and it was actually when Dorothy started talking where as she kind of brought attention to a historical pattern or something, that it was finally starting to release and straighten out. And so it actually straightened out. So there's a whole lot of healing heavenly balm that got poured in there. So yeah.
Amen. Thank you, Jesus. So I repent of that by faith in Jesus' mighty name. I wanted to fix and take care of everyone and do it myself. Jesus.
If I can ask, I used to lose my voice twice a year when I was growing up. I ate a lot of sugar. I had bad immune system. My mom smoked all the time, whatever the reasons were, my ears and my throat. And my throat has been on fire for a couple of days. I have a new student this week, and I don't have very many students at all, and it's not a big deal, but I just want to know if I brought back in something. I know my husband had been sick for 2 weeks and I was staying away from it, trying to stay away from him. We planted the tulips and we're right this close together. And I did it because I couldn't give him my tulips on his lips. So I gave him tulip flowers because I read Christine and I had engaged when I had you engaged, through whatever one time. And you said, give him like tulips. I said, you're giving them flowers like tulips. And I read that. I'm like, okay, well, then I'll make it into something like that. And then the next day I started coming down with this and I'm so upset because it's on fire and I don't know what to do with it. But if there's something, because it happened literally twice a year all growing up, but it hasn't happened for a while. And I know because my dad's passing, that there's some different things I've been thinking about my mom and my dad and stuff like that. I don't know if it's anything.
Okay. First, let me say one word to Nidia that I don't want to forget about, but I won't tell the whole thing that I saw, but the one thing that you need to do is I saw that you needed, in fact, the Lord said a mag bath, which I know that's like Epsom salt for magnesium in a bath. There's water in the heavens that I was seeing poured into this kind of V in your thigh. And so anyway, I know that that was from the Lord to do a magnesium bath. Okay.
Amen. Thank you. I'll Google what exactly like the recipe is. Magnesium bath.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that big a deal. You can get some Epsom salt and do like, I do 2 cups of that in a bath full of water. So you can do that. You could do 1 to 2 if you feel like 2 might be too much. Okay.
I'll do the whole bag. Eh? Thank you.
20 minutes exactly.
Cool. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So Dottie, your on fire throat. Yeah, let's engage over her, see if there's any, especially if there's any spiritual root, if it's been happening all through her life, that seems like it might be.
I want inside to be on fire for the Lord, but not in this way. If it's got to purge out something, wrong mindset, I'm open.
Okay, did anyone get a word for Dottie?
I did. I mean, so I saw you as a, like somewhere between 3 and 4 year old, and you're really distressed, and there's a combination of having this fire in your heart and really hacking and coughing, and also just feeling this grief and sadness, and you just kind of jumped into my arms and held on and sobbed and then and felt some relief. But I just want to encourage you to check in with that time period and that part of yourself and comfort that little one.
Did anyone else get anything?
Yeah, when I was actually engaging, I saw a strip gold. It's written things on it. It actually is being peeled off. And then I saw straight away there's something else is being rewritten and being applied over her life. Other written things.
Did you say a scroll or something gold? I'm sorry.
It's sort of it's long. It's sort of like it's so long, and I saw it actually is going off, and then I saw something else is actually being put in back into place. Yeah, that's what I saw.
I just oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, okay. I think I sent it on the right signal thread, but I just sent this lemon wrap recipe for your throat. I've never heard of it, so I looked it up to make sure it was a real thing before I said it. And if it wasn't a real thing, I still would have said it. But there is a way to use lemons they have anti-inflammatory properties, and especially the oil in the rind or the skin. And so that's one thing you should do. But also, I know this sounds silly, but honoring the lemon for what it's supposed to be on the earth will release its, pathway to do that for you. Because there's so much more that lemons should be doing for us in our bodies than they are allowed to, just because that restoration of all things has not happened. But you can engage that and release that as a manifest sun by honoring whatever that lemon is supposed to be doing in your body. I hope that makes sense. Christine, if you can make more sense of what I'm saying, you can add something in, but.
No, I think she gets it.
Okay.
Yeah. She does a great job of that, of honoring animals and all the things that are as they should be, Right, Dottie?
Only since you taught us that last time. Yes.
Well, I've seen a huge amount of that in you since then. So
I had a cardinal and blue jay and woodpecker at my side window, and I went outside to sit in the yard, and there was a moth. I don't think it was a butterfly, although moths aren't supposed to come out during the day. It sat on my knee, and then I took a picture of it and sent it, and it's still there for a while. And then the wind blew, so it left, but then it landed on my shoulder, and so my family called me Snow White. But I've been engaging with the birds and the trees and everything that's the weird stuff. Hey, I don't mind.
yeah. So just engage with the lemon. I thought that was good. The only thing I saw was you gargling something. I think it was salt water. I don't know, but I just saw you gargling that, and that's like all I got.
I've done that 2 or 3 times today, and I usually just gargle with Melaleuca oil, but it wasn't really helping yesterday or the night before. So I've been doing salt water because it's supposed to heal it, but it didn't make it feel better.
Yeah.
So I did salt water to make it actually feel better.
That's cool. Nydia, I know you got something too.
Okay, so I don't, this is kind of weird because I'm trying to, well, we'll see. So when I was first engaging about me, I was at the edge of this like little river creek, and I was like picking up little pebbles, but at the same time I was like asking the Lord, well, pebbles, rocks, river rocks. And I was asking the Lord for like desperate healing, right? And so then we talked about me and whatnot. But then when I started engaging with about Dorothy, I actually saw, I don't know if it was you or me, but I want to say it was you, Dorothy, because it had short hair like you have short hair. And it was almost like a sack full of river rocks that this person was carrying, like a lot of weight. And I want to say it was you too, because then my throat started to hurt, especially on the right side of my throat was hurting. And I felt a lot of sorrow, kind of like what one of the other ladies said. I don't know if it was River. I felt a lot of sorrow, but then instead of like if you were carrying a lot of weight, and so then I felt as if as a child you were giving that responsibility of actually taking the role of a parent, like parenting your parents. I don't know if this makes sense or not, but then instead of the rocks, it's actually was almost like carrying a body, not like a human sized body, but like a little body, like a 4, 6-year-old body. And that was it. So that was kind of weird. Not sure exactly what it means, but that's what I saw.
I think I did lose a cat when I was 3 or 4. I lost my grandfather when I was 2 and couldn't go to his funeral. They wouldn't allow me to. They let my older sisters. And when I was 5, I lost my grandmother, who I was close to. But I don't know what year. I think I was about 7 when I feel like the God showed me I had taken over my own life, when we almost went off the bridge and my 2-year-old brother was in front seat and Dad had fallen asleep at the wheel, and we went on to oncoming traffic on the top of this high bridge. And thank God, after the second time of me leaning over and pulling it to the side, there was a cop car on each side, and then he went to jail for drinking and driving. And I know God is the one who protected me. I used to say I was the one who did it, and I wanted Dad to ever thank me, and he never did. But I wanted to be proven that I'm the one who did it, and I couldn't depend on him anymore. So some of what y'all have said is just a lot of scariness about him falling asleep at the wheel again, or drinking, driving. They put a lot of pressure on me later on. Anyway, I feel like I thought I'd gone through enough healing from that, but evidently there's layers. Thank you for all of it. I'll bring this to the Lord.
Well, I saw something when Nita was talking about that, how you were carrying this at like 4. I saw that actually you were carrying yourself at that age that River was talking about, that it was you carrying that part of you around that you're still carrying. And you need to be able to have Yeshua heal that part of you and integrate it back into yourself, because you're still fragmented in that way. And so that's how it's a burden, kind of. So I hope that makes sense.
Could it be also that I'm holding my mom? Because whenever my dad would fall asleep at some kind of big ball event, he'd have his head in the plate and she was embarrassed, and he never listened to her. And that I took that on me really, really strongly. I wrote to my dad several times that I never gave him the letters, but he couldn't come back and stay with us for 2 weeks because he embarrassed her sleeping. And then that's when he ended up switching to beer instead of alcohol because of that. But there's many different times that could have happened when I was that young.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had to hold on for my mom or protect her and do all that.
I'm sure that's all part of it. Or
I never would have
perhaps
thought that
another
was a
part of it.
mistake.
Yeah. Well, just go with the Lord and ask him if that stuff's coming up right now, likely that's something that needs to be dealt with, right? And so just take it to the Lord and ask him how he can heal it. You know, we talked about the healing code and stuff. That's a really good time to do that, is just lay that before the Lord and ask him to heal it and go through that, because especially the healing code is really good for healing memories in the body and in the soul. And so if you can have the Father take that and have him mend it while you're going through that, that will probably really help you. Not that you have to do the healing code. You can do whatever you want with the Lord with that, but it's just something that can help. Hey. Well, anyone else have anything they'd like to share about their engaging or anything else like that? All righty. Well, I will send out your homework later this evening, okay? I love you guys. If you need anything, message me. And yeah, don't feel like you can't, by the way, because it seems like I get a lot of messages at the end of the week. Oh, sorry about the homework. And that's it. So just know it's okay to contact one another. I will have partners this week. And so either Lisa or me will be an extra partner because we have 5 people. Okay. So I'll let you know who's who after we figure that out too. Okay. All right. Love you guys. See ya.
Love y'all. Thank you.
Bye.